Women's soccer avoids another loss, cross-country competes for the conference title, and the World Series has almost come to a close. It's time to come on down to Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Bryn Reese. To start, Point Park men's and women's soccer were back at Highmark Stadium for a doubleheader against Frostburg State on Saturday. The women's team celebrated senior night honoring their 10 graduating players, including starters Alina Bajek, Abigail Ganas, and Vanessa Vasquez. The Pioneers went on to battle for their second straight tie after a 1-1 final score. Point Park seized a 1-0 lead minutes before halftime when Cara Spry scored an unassisted goal in the 43rd minute for her third this season. The Pioneers entered the second half and spirits were high, maintaining their lead well into the period. Things were looking real promising until the Bobcats answered in the 76th minute with the tying goal. The Pioneers did not have enough time to answer and weren't able to battle back for the win. Seniors Bajek and Vasquez both recorded a shot on target, along with 2 more shot attempts from Vasquez. Point Park goalie Fredrike Rizlarsdam and Frostburg State goalie Katie Stern both played all 90 minutes, recording 3 saves each. Now the Pioneers moved to a 1-7-4 conference record, keeping them in last place in the MEC North Division. 3 games remain in the regular season, and the ladies travel to West Virginia tonight to face West Liberty, where they're looking for their first win in almost a month. Shortly after, Game 2 of the afternoon kicked off, where the Point Park men were fighting for their first win since early October as well. All was quiet in Highmark Stadium, and the Pioneers walked away with their 6th straight loss with a 1-0 final score. After a scoreless first half, the Bobcats opened the second period with an immediate goal in the 47th minute from Carlos Quintero Rivas for his 8th goal of the season. The Pioneers went on to attempt 6 shots on goal in the second, but none of them landed as Point Park left the stadium empty-handed. Despite the unhappy ending, Niels Benning and Ruben Coppers recorded 2 shots on target each, and goalie David Ali racked up an impressive 7 saves in 90 full minutes. However, Frostburg State goalie Jan Foret had him beat with 8 saves for the shutout dub. The Pioneers fall to a 3-9-1 conference record for the 7th place spot in the MEC. Now, with only 2 games left in the regular season and desperate for a win, Point Park travels to West Virginia tonight as well to face Davis and Elkins. They'll return home next Wednesday for their final game of the season, where they'll be celebrating their graduating players. Now, we have McKenna Smith reporting on Point Park Volleyball's recent matchups. McKenna?
Thanks, Bryn. Point Park women's volleyball team faced a tough evening on Tuesday, dropping its 4th consecutive match in a 3-0 loss against Frostburg State in a Mountain East Conference showdown. Frostburg State took all 3 sets decisively with a score of 25-20, 25-15, and 25-17, capitalizing on a strong offensive performance that kept the Pioneers at bay throughout the match. With this defeat, Point Park seasons now stands at 5-16 overall and 3-7 in MEC play, positioning them at the bottom of the MEC North Conference. In contrast, Frostburg State's win elevates their record to 9-14 and their conference standing to 3-8, moving them up into 4th place into the MEC North. The Pioneers struggled to gain traction on the attack, ending the evening with 24 kills against 22 errors. Comparatively, Frostburg State had a more efficient offensive night with 37 kills and 13 errors. The Bobcats also outperformed Point Park defensively, tallying a 7-3 advantage in blocks and an 8-4 lead in service aces, both of which played a significant role in the match's outcome. Individually, Eden McElhaney led the Point Park offense with 5 kills. She remains Point Park's leader in kills and 2nd in digs this season. Setter Elise Wallace, who ranks 5th in the MEC for assists, recorded 16 assists during the match, and on defense, Mia Arndt and Julia Falador anchored Point Park with double-digit digs, recording 11 and 10 respectively. For Frostburg State, Danny Kunkel delivered an impressive performance with a match-high 14 kills, while Emery Kubler orchestrated the offense with 16 assists. Additionally, 3 Bobcat players tallied 9 digs each. Looking ahead, Point Park will have the opportunity to regroup as they prepare for a non-conference matchup against Carnegie Mellon this Thursday evening. The match is set for 6 p.m. On the other side of Pittsburgh offers the Pioneers a chance to refine their play and seek a much-needed victory as the season progresses. Back to you at the desk, Bryn.
Thanks, McKenna. When we come back, more on Point Park Sports, followed by a very special guest. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Next, we have Ronan Lancaster reporting on cross country's big meet. Ronan?
Thanks, Bryn. It was a big weekend for the Pioneers and the cross country team. This week in cross country, the Pioneers competed in the MEC Championship at Wheeling, West Virginia. In the 8K, the men's team finished 7th out of 11 teams with 184 points combined. Luke McKenna finished 9th overall in the race. His time of 25 minutes 54 seconds helped him earn first team All-MEC honors. Other Pioneers such as Yannick Windelband finished in 31st and Josh Gosselin finished in 50th. On the women's team, in the 6K, the Pioneers finished 3rd overall. Cassandra O'Connor finished 2nd in her race this weekend. This was another accolade to an amazing season that gave her the honors of MEC Runner of the Year, Freshman of the Year, and First Team All-Conference at the MEC Cross Country Championships. O'Connor is the first Point Park athlete to win an MEC Athlete of the Year award in school history. The Pioneers also had 2 runners in Allison Placio and Jana Schmid, who received second team All-MEC accolades. Placio finished in 12th and Schmid finished in 17th. That's all from me now. I'll be sending things back to Bryn, who's joined by a special guest. Bryn?
Thanks, Ronan. Now, I'm here with 7-time Emmy Award-winning producer Roger Lenhart Jr. Roger is a WVU graduate with experience in producing MLB games, NHL games, college games, and more. So first off, thank you so much for being here. We greatly, greatly appreciate it.
No problem, pleasure.
Amazing. And then to kind of kick things off, can you walk us through your job responsibilities and expectations as a producer?
Sure. I produce a lot of sporting events for ESPN+, CBS Sports Network, tons of different networks. So my job is to, when I'm doing the game, is to call the replays. I put together the graphics for the broadcast. I reach out to the sports information directors of each school, and then I set up a conference call with the coaches each week, and then I get the talent involved as well. So there's a lot of responsibilities. People think when you do a game, it's just, hey, I'm doing the game, but there's so much leading up to that, and it's a lot of fun because every game is different. It's live, it's sports, and it's so much fun because you never know what story is going to happen in the broadcast, in the game. So that's the fun part about it, is you never know what's going to happen. Like last night, Marc-Andre Fleury playing his last game with, at PPG last night. Grew up with the Penguins, started out with the Penguins. Just an incredible story. And to see the crowd react like that, that's what sports is all about. And that's what I love about it.
Amazing. And then I know a lot of us here at Point Park are interested in that industry. How did you kind of get your foot in the door and get into what you're doing now?
So I started out with the Detroit Red Wings, working in PR. But after about a year, I decided I wanted to get into TV because I love TV, and my life was always sports. Unfortunately, that's the only thing I know is sports, and it was a dream of mine. So I started interning. It was called KBL Sports Network, televised the Pirates and Penguins, did some high school football. Started out interning there, and from there I went to WPXI, the NBC affiliate here in Pittsburgh, as a sports producer, produced a nightly sportscast. But it was that internship how I got started, because I got recognized by WPXI, and they decided to bring me on full time. From there I went to New York, worked for an all sports network. Then I started producing events, moved back to Pittsburgh after a couple of years. Produced a lot of different events such as high school football, some Penguin games, some Pirate games, and it's been a love of mine, just producing games. Being in Pittsburgh, great sports town, so I just love it. Couldn't ask for anything better. But the key part of that is the internship, because I learned so much from different people who taught me how to produce a game, to produce studio shows, and it was all worth it. And it's been a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then what are some skills and traits that you feel are most important to go into this industry?
Well, we work in a communication business, so you think everybody communicates well, but it's the actual opposite. But in order to be successful, you have to communicate. You have to be a team player. I know in our classes here, everyone that you guys have heard speak, all talk about being that team player. It's very important. I can be the best producer in the world, but if I don't have good camera guys, good replay ops, good graphics person, or a good director, doesn't matter how good the producer is. So everybody has to work as a team. That is the most important in communicating. Like, I was here early enough to see you guys communicate what was going on in the show, and that's awesome. You guys are college students just starting out in the business, and to see how you guys communicated with each other was just awesome, because you have to do that in this field, or otherwise the product's going to suffer.
And then I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what are some obstacles that you faced as a producer, and how do you kind of overcome those?
So the very first time I produced a game, I'll never ever forget it. I wasn't supposed to produce, but we had a guy call off sick, so I had to do 4 high school football championship games in one day. I'd never produced an event in my life, but there was no other option. So that night, I didn't sleep at all. Didn't sleep at all. Got to the event. It was at Three River Stadium at the time. Got to the event at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was crew call, and I was so nervous. I was literally shaking, and I'm not the nervous type. I'm really laid back. I never get nervous. But that morning, I was just going like this. But I produced the 4 games. The director, his name was Dennis Galloway, was incredible. Taught me the ropes. After the game, I got so many kudos. And that was one of the first big obstacles that I had. And then in this business, I freelance a lot, which means I produce for a lot of different companies. So you work with a lot of different personalities. That's another obstacle that you have to overcome, because there are some that are laid back. There's some that are screamers. So you just have to be prepared to work it all. Those are probably my biggest obstacles. But for the most part, I've been very fortunate, because I haven't had many obstacles in this business.
Awesome. And then to kind of wrap things up, can you tell us about one of your most memorable moments as a producer over the years?
Well, I've had the opportunity. It's a great question. I've had the opportunity to work, being on the field after Steelers win on the Super Bowl, Stanley Cup championships, when Penguins won the Cup in Detroit. I was on the ice right after that, which is really, really cool. But I love doing the Pony League World Series, because you have all these little kids coming in. Well, I say little kids, but 13 to 14, come in from all parts of the world. And it's just incredible. You get kids from Japan who don't speak any English at all. You get kids from Puerto Rico. And that's probably my favorite thing that I've done, is work the Pony League World Series. And plus, we won 2 Emmys with the Pony League World Series, working with a lot of college students. So that's probably been my biggest accomplishment there.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight and everything with us, and thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. You guys do a great job with this show, so thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And for those at home, make sure to stay tuned for more Pioneer Sideline interviews in the near future. Now, fall sports are beginning to wind down, but Point Park Volleyball kicks off this weekend, this Thursday, over at Carnegie Mellon for a non-conference matchup. Then they travel to West Virginia on Friday to face West Virginia Wesleyan. Women's soccer is on the road this Sunday against Fairmont State at 1 p.m. Then volleyball is back at home on Monday to take on West Liberty at 7 p.m. in the Student Center. Come back next week for more updates on Point Park sports, and as always, go Pioneers. After the break, more of what's happening in the sports world. Don't go anywhere.
Take them, cue them, open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Welcome back. Now, what's happening locally? Ryan Thiele joins us with an update on Pittsburgh sports. Ryan?
Thanks, Bryn. This was a very busy week here in Pittsburgh, starting with the Steelers, who notched a 26-18 win over the New York Giants on Monday Night Football, bringing them to a 6-2 record, securing their first place in the AFC North. Russell Wilson continued his strong season with only missing 8 total passes and throwing for over 200 yards, proving a good choice for SQB1. The defense was lackluster aside from another stand-up performance by T.J. Watt, including a crucial strip sack. The Steelers now enter their bye week. Moving over to the college football world, last week the number 9 Panthers hosted the Syracuse in a primetime ACC matchup. The Panthers defense squeezed out the Orange. They came up with 5 totals interceptions, 3 being for pick sixes. They also had 3 sacks, all from the linebacker core, also known as the Sharks. This play by the defense propelled them to a 41-13 win. With a dominant win, the Panthers only moved up 1 spot in the AP Top 25. They are now 18th. They will travel to the Dallas, Texas this Saturday to take on SMU in a primetime game on the ACC network. From the gridiron to the ice, the Pittsburgh Penguins lost to the Minnesota Wild in a 5-3 loss, with Marc-Andre Fleury making a memorable 26 saves in what may be his last game at PPG Paints Arena. The Penguins started strong with a goal from Valery Punskin and Rickard Rakell, but the Wild quickly answered with goals from Jacob Lurko and Frederick Gurgo, who later scored twice. The Pittsburgh's third goal by Rakell then kept them close, but Kirill Crimson sealed it with an empty netter, hailing Pittsburgh their 6th consecutive loss, as the defense for the Penguins has given up a multi-goal lead in each of the last 6 games. They are now sit at 3-7-1 record, with that being the worst in the NHL. We are now 8 weeks done with the NFL season. Gabe Ebersol is here to tell us what happened. Gabe?
Thanks, Ryan. The tight ends were great in Week 8 on National Tight Ends Day. The 177 passes hauled in across the league, the most ever in a single day for the position, including the likes of Travis Kelce's first score on the season and George Kittle's dominant contest against Dallas. 14 of the league's largest pass catchers got into the end zone. 2 of these 14 would score twice, and both men played at Raymond James Stadium this weekend. Atlanta's Kyle Pitts had his first multi-TD game of his career to go with 91 yards, though he was very close to a Deshaun Jackson moment on the second. Meanwhile, Tampa's Cade Otton got into the end zone on 2 of his 9 receptions, with the final Kirk Tober performance of 4 TD tosses and the Atlanta secondary grabbing 2 picks off of Baker Mayfield. The Falcons were able to hold on to a 31-26 win. They moved to 5-3, 4-0 in NFC South play. Fans said they wanted another close divisional game, with both tight ends scoring on their day. NFL scriptwriters cooked up a classic in Cleveland, as both David Njoku and Mark Andrews conducted the end zone celebrations in the third quarter. In Jameis Winston's first start of the season, he threw for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. The famous 30-30 season QB threw 0 picks, but that came with help from Kyle Hamilton, dropping a game-sealing INT just seconds before the dagger touchdown. Browns get their second win on the season, while Baltimore loses a lot of the momentum that they've been building up recently. Cleveland comes out on top in this one, 29-24. In the first meetup between the 2024's top pair of draft picks, no tight ends were featured, but instead a dozen punts, 5 field goal attempts, a pair of scores on the ground, and the greatest signature rookie play since the OBJ catch in 2014. 3 plays after Chicago scored the go-ahead touchdown with 27 seconds left. It seemed that Caleb Williams would win a defensive game, squeaking it out with no touchdown passes. Maybe that's how it goes down 99 times out of 100, but see why you play till the clock hits 0. Commanders QB Jaden Daniels uncorked a 65-yard bomb that hit right off Bear corner Tyreek Stevenson's hand before Noah Brown caught the game-winning touchdown. With a walk-off for the 18-15 win, the Commanders now improved to 6-2, the very first year after Dan Snyder sold the team. Week 9 is the NFL's mid-season point, kicking off on Thursday with the Jets playing in a must-win game against the Houston Texans. Next, since we've been gone, the World Series has been under a lot of drama. Edmie Idalis has the update. Edmie?
Thanks, Gabe. As of Wednesday morning, October 30th, the Los Angeles Dodgers and New York Yankees are in the middle of the World Series. The Yankees narrowly escaped a sweep with a Game 4 win after the Dodgers had won the first 3 games, forcing a Game 5 at New York. Game 1 and 2 were played in Los Angeles, while Games 3 and 4 were played in New York. Yankees Garrett Cole and Dodgers Jack Flaherty started the World Series off pitching for the respective teams with strong showings. Game 1 finished in a historic and dramatic fashion with Dodgers' Freddie Freeman hitting the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history. The grand slam came in extra innings, giving the Dodgers the first win of the series with a score of 6-3. Starting pitchers for Game 2 was Yankees Carlos Rodon and Dodgers Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Rodon with a quick exit after 3 innings and Yamamoto dominating in his World Series debut with a strong 6 innings. The Dodgers gained a quick lead with 4 runs scored in the 3rd inning, ultimately being enough to beat the Yankees with a score of 4-2 in Game 2. Shohei Ohtani faced a partially dislocated shoulder in the 2nd game after attempting to steal a base, but he was cleared to be in the starting lineup for Game 3. For Game 3, the starting pitchers was Dodger Walker Buehler and Yankees Clark Schmidt. Yankees with another quick exiting pitcher as Schmidt was relieved in the 2nd inning, and another strong performance for the Dodgers with Buehler pitching 5 shutout innings and with 5 strikeouts. The Dodgers once again took an early lead, scoring 3 runs in the first 3 innings. Entering the bottom of the 9th inning, the Yankees had yet to score. They rallied but came up short, scoring just 2 runs, handing the Dodgers a 3-0 lead in the World Series. As the teams headed to Game 4, the Yankees were fighting to stay alive, while the Dodgers were battling for a World Series sweep. The starting pitchers for Game 4 were Dodgers Ben Kasparias and Yankees Louis Gill. Kasparias makes a quick exit, only pitching to the 2nd inning, while Gill stayed for 4 innings. The Dodgers opened up the game with 2 quick runs in the 1st inning, but the Yankees' 5 runs in the first 3 innings was all they needed to force a Game 5 with a score of 11-4. The Professional Women's Hockey League is looking for an expansion, and Megan Lukic has an update. Megan?
Thanks, Edmie. After playing only 1 season and setting several records for attendance at a women's hockey game, the Professional Women's Hockey League is ready to expand. The PWHL held its inaugural season at the beginning of 2024, featuring 6 teams from Boston, Minnesota, Toronto, Montreal, New York, and Ottawa. On Tuesday, it was announced that the league is looking to add 2 more teams as early as 2025-26 season. It is unclear what cities are being considered at the moment, but requests for expansion to potential markets will be sent out as early as next week, according to the PWHL Senior Vice President of Business Operations, Amy Shear. Shear said on Tuesday that we're looking for the right market size, right fan base, right facilities, right economic opportunity, so a lot of research to be done over the next couple of months, end quote. A report from TSN believes that potential candidates for a new U.S.-based team could include Detroit, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Denver, and Seattle. The 2 standouts among those 6 cities are Pittsburgh and Detroit, due to the fact that they hosted neutral site games during last year's PWHL season. Calgary and Quebec City have been cited as possible candidates for a new Canadian-based team, with Quebec City already voicing its desire to be one of the 2 expansion teams. Quebec City Councillor Jackie Smith announced that a neutral location game will take place in Quebec City on January 19th between the Ottawa Charge and the Montreal Victory. Smith hopes that this game is the first step to getting a pro women's hockey franchise in Quebec City. The PWHL season will begin its second season on November 30th. That's all from me and the rest of us. Back to you at the desk, Bryn.
Thanks, everyone. When we come back, we discuss the state of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 6-2 going into the bye week with new quarterbacks and a new offensive coordinator. It raises questions if things are really looking different and if the Steelers are trending upwards. I'm Matt Blangy, and I'm joined by Ryan Tilley, Peyton, and Ryan Quinn to discuss. So obviously, things have been looking good. After that loss to Dallas, they won 3 straight in dominating fashion. How do we feel about it? Peyton, I'll start with you.
Well, I feel like we got a competent quarterback, but there's a difference between really good and elite and competent. Russ is maybe, I think, top 15 in the league right now, top 16, right? He's middle of the pack. He fits. This is why I really like the Russell Wilson acquisition. He fits what Arthur Smith likes to do, which is play action, throw the deep ball. That's what Russ succeeds at. And when you have the defense that we do, Russ is going to win some games for you. But for them to be considered a Super Bowl contender, I don't think so. I mean, look, the Steelers, I still have some current concerns with them, and they beat 3 consecutive teams. The Giants, the Jets, and the Raiders. Those are both terrible football teams. And the Jets, I thought, were kind of good, but they have no talent. No talent whatsoever. They have talent, but they're not a good team. So we gotta see how they do in the back half of their schedule, which is really tough.
So overall, you're feeling a little optimistic, but you do see the positive so far.
Optimistic, but cautiously optimistic.
Okay. Ryan, how do you feel?
I just want to say, you brought up the Jets. Jets defense does rank top 15 in the league right now in overall defense.
But ever since Robert Saleh left, they're terrible.
It doesning matter. They're still.
I'm not defending a team that just lost to the Patriots. I'm sorry.
Yes, I get it. They just lost to the Patriots. I get it. They're not
they lose to the Broncos 10-9. I don't know if we can talk good about this
Matt,
team.
I understand what you guys are saying, but you're saying competent. He still made a Jets defense not look good. And yes, this is the Jets. The Jets are the Jets. But that's still a top-tier defense that we are playing and we put up points against. I mean, compared to this year to last year, I'm so much more looking forward to going into the playoffs this year. I mean, I don't think we're going to get a contender at all. I think we're a one-and-done team because that's just what the Steelers do now.
What are you so excited about then?
I'm so excited that we actually have a chance to win the playoff game this year. We haven't said that in the past, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I can agree with that.
It's been 7 years since the Steelers have won a playoff game.
So I feel more confident going into the playoffs this year than I did since Ben was here. And even before that, I was even confident with Ben being here. So, I mean, I'm optimistic. I'm happy. Our defense scared me last week, though, with them allowing a big rush plays. I mean, I get it. Highsmith, this is like his second game back from injury, or he just came back from injury. But we can't let the Giants run on us, and that's what worries me about the Steelers.
Okay.
The Steelers create a lot of turnovers, but their main issue right now, which is I'm glad you brought that up, is this run defense. It's terrible.
Okay.
I mean, the Cowboys have no run game, got torched by Zeke. They got torched by Breece Hall.
Rico
got
Dowdle,
torched
not
by
Zeke. Rico Dowdle, not Zeke.
Rico Dowdle. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
the
But
GOAT.
Tyrone Tracy. And they got torched by the Raiders a few times in the run game. This linebacker core was supposed to be elite. I'm not seeing it in the run game.
I like what you said, but I need to hear from Ryan first before we go back to you, okay? But
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. We'll go back to it. We'll talk about that.
I agree with both Ryan. I agree with Payne. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think one of the biggest differences for the Steelers team is that we've always said that we needed a solid offense. That's the most we needed because our defense is so good. And while there have been a little bit of scares there, we still look like a competent defense for a majority of the time. And the biggest thing is that we're blowing out these teams. Before, for these Tomlin teams, when we faced off against below average competition, it would be a nail biter going into the last play of the game. We barely win. For that Giants game, I mean, our offense looked phenomenal. We just couldn't finish off in the red zone. I feel like we should have scored way more than we did. We scored 30 plus against the Raiders and the Jets. That's why I'm feeling a lot more confident. Like you said, we can win a playoff game for once because we actually have a solid offense that should be able to go down the field and get us some points. When before, the defense had to do everything. The special teams had to do everything. Now the offense can finally hold them up and finally get us some points. So I agree with both of you with that.
Yeah, so I kind of want to go off what Ryan just said. The offense progressed, but I also have to say, I think the defense regressed a little bit. It might not seem like it because they're winning games, but their defense, as you talked about the run defense, you broke it down.
Terrible.
The Cowboys are ranked bottom 3 in run attack, and their
Mike
best
McCarthy
rushing
doesn't know
game.
What a run game is.
Yeah, apparently.
And they
I
still
don't want to
rush
talk.
for 100
I really
yards
do not
on
want
us.
to talk about the Cowboys though, but I will say specifically that game really scared all of Pittsburgh because their run defense looked terrible. The Cowboys threw 2 interceptions and fumbled in the red zone and still won. But now that Russ has came in, I will talk about this specific difference. I think Russ should be the 3 down, should be the quarterback almost every drive, and I think Justin Fields should be a red zone attack.
Yes.
Because specifically last week, I hated Russell Wilson in the red zone, and I hated the Steelers in the red zone. They looked horrible, and I will be honest, if that quarterback was not Daniel Jones, they would have lost that football game.
And you're bringing up Justin Fields in the red zone. So I don't know if you guys seen it. They even did a quarterback draw with Russ. I mean, they let Russ run the ball. When you have a kid
slow.
who is half the age as Russ, why are we using him in the red zone as a dual threat quarterback and then we can also use him as a play action package, have the defense bite in and have Justin throw over top because Justin still has the ability to throw a football.
Right.
And I don't understand why Arthur Smith just doesn't let Justin Fields throw the ball downfield in the red zone. It's the same thing that happened earlier in the year that we're seeing it now. And now with Russ coming in, we're not going to see Justin Fields, which I agree with you. We should be seeing Justin Fields in the red zone, not trying to vary him in and out.
Yeah, you saw how Fields was doing every time we made it into the red zone for those first 6 games. I mean, the rushing attack, maybe he wasn't getting those passing touchdowns, but those rushing touchdowns he was able to get against the Colts and things like that. That's exactly what this team needs. And I feel like that's why when we get to that red zone more and more often, because it looks like we can actually do that now with Russell Wilson, those deep shots in the play action, that rollout play. I always hated that rollout play. It seems to actually be effective for once with Darnell Washington and all of them. So I'm happy that hopefully Justin Fields, hopefully that hamstring gets better and he's able to actually progress in the red zone.
All right, so I heard everything. I'm going to give my final take on it since you guys all kind of seemed alike that they're capable of winning a playoff game. My personal opinion, I'm not going to pick them to do so. And I'll tell you guys why real quick. I haven't seen it yet. It's been 7 years. I think Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith are an issue, but I think I feel better about the Steelers this year than I have in those last 7 years, so I agree with you guys on that. But anyways, I'm going to have to cut you guys off here and myself there. That is all the time we have for this week. Be sure to join us next time at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.